Welcome to another episode of Stay Paid. I'm Joshua Stike along with Luke Acree. Our guest today is a huge number one ranked agent
and local
ranked, team leader really now. Number one team in Pennsylvania, Delaware, number 49th in the nation.
Yeah, I've been following Tom for a while now. And the reason why he's local, I've always known of him, but the reason why I started following him is because of a ton of the podcasts that I listen to, especially in the real estate world, kept talking about this guy.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, this guy's a stud. They used him as examples, all that stuff. I was like, okay, I got to check this guy out. And trust me, you will not be disappointed to follow him as well as this episode.
Yeah, we go through content, we go through video content, we go through lead generation, we go through lead conversion, a lot of golden nuggets and really, really solid advice from a leader in this space on today's episode. But before we bring Tom on, we'd love it if you take a minute to subscribe to Stay Paid on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. If you're not already subscribed, and while you're there, drop us a review along with a comment to let us know how we're doing. Now let's get into this week's interview.
From ReminderMedia, this is Stay Paid, a sales and marketing podcast on a mission to help you close more deals and retain more business. Hosted by the VP of Marketing, Josh Stike, and ReminderMedia's president, Luke Acree. So get ready to hear the golden nuggets that will allow you to live a life of freedom tomorrow, but only if you take action today.
Our guest today is Tom Toole. Tom leads the number one ranked team in Pennsylvania and Delaware and is ranked 49th team in the United States for all real estate teams within RE/MAX International. Tom shares sales techniques and building business practices as a sought-after speaker at conferences throughout the U.S., including the Tom Ferry Success Summit, Boomtown Unite TF Sales Edge, and Impact Agent University. In addition to his real estate accolades, he also co-hosts Toole Time, a weekly show about local news and real estate-specific topics. Tom, thanks so much for being here. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me on, fellas. Honored to be here for sure.
Yeah, man, it's awesome. I'm super excited for this show. I was telling Ariel and Josh beforehand, I was like, this guy's a beast. And I said, there's so many different avenues, guys, we can take this show because he's a master on the phones. He's doing content marketing really, really well. He's built out a whole team. So I'm excited for this episode. But Tom, if you could just take maybe just a couple minutes and just share your backstory of how did you get into real estate? How did you end up being a number one team? Just kind of bring us up to today for those who don't know you.
Yeah, so that's a really interesting question because I got licensed when I was 19. And I was still in college and I was a bit like a finance and accounting major. And then I came home one summer, sold a couple houses. And I thought to myself, wow, I don't want to be doing journal entries the rest of my life. This is way more exciting. And really because you get to help people and make an impact on their lives a lot differently than you do in the corporate world. And you don't have to deal with like all that corporate political hierarchy. It's merit-based. You get rewarded for your production. So that really appealed to me. And then I started selling real estate full time right after I got out of school. Lived in my parents' basement for a year. That was a little rough. Got me motivated to get out. And really what I learned to do was pick up the phone and have conversations with people about real estate, which in 2021, there's not a lot of agents that talk about, hey, I'm interested in picking up the phone and having conversations. It's about social media and I'm going to run these different ads and I'm going to get a lot of internet inbound leads and all these different things, which work. And we do. So I don't want to say that that's wrong. Ultimately, people want to hear the sound of your voice and they want to be able to connect with the person. And when you make it about the person instead of the property, that can go a long way, especially when we're geographically not that far from each other on this podcast, but we're on a Zoom call. There's not that physical interaction it's kind of gone away over the past 19, 20 months, especially in Pennsylvania. So that's something that I've always kind of stuck to and it's done well for us. Now we're trying to transfer that skill to everyone on our team. We started scaling our team back about 8-9 years ago, affiliated with a real estate coach, Tom Ferry, and that's dramatically helped. And this year we're going to close around 500 sales. We did 355 last year. So we're getting there and there's a lot of room to grow. And more importantly, it's now you got to run it like a business, which is totally different than being an individual agent. So there's so much we could talk about here, but that's the 500-foot view like you asked for.
I want to make sure I heard that right. So last year you did 255.
355.
Oh, 355. Okay, 355. But this year you're on track to do around 500.
Yeah, we've got, I think, 315 or 316 pending year to date and settled through August. So we're getting there. I mean, the big challenge, though, and this is not something a lot of team leaders talk about, is that I've had to now step out of production. So, when you're doing 90 deals a year on your own, it's easy to put up big numbers. And I did that for about 10 years straight. now that I've backed out of that, I mean, it's really about having great systems, having a great process, having great training. So the way I use a script can be the same way that our 23 team members use a script. And that's where, I've had to shift my perspective, my focus. And at the same time, I think that's why we're also trending a lot higher, because, if you can transfer that skill and you can teach someone how to fish, right? The old saying, then it really, really goes a long way.
That's awesome. So you talk about systems, processes, sort of being able to scale that. All of that starts with the leads, right? You brought up the idea of picking up the phone. Is that where the majority of your leads are coming from? How else are you guys generating leads for you and your 23 agents?
Yes. So, I mean, we're doing the same stuff a lot of major teams are doing. We've got a lot of inbound internet leads that come in. Our Sphere is still our number one lead source, which I'm really proud of, because especially in today's world, there's so much tech disruption going on. Everyone's trying to get a piece of the real estate commission pie. So if you're not working your own leads and building your Sphere, that's a misstep. I mean, today's world is just, it's very different than when I got started, and also really similar, because when I started, all I was doing was like Sphere deals and like circle calls. And now that's become like the thing to do, because there's all these internet portals that are out there trying to grab, a third of the commission or a quarter of the commission. But if you can work your network in your Sphere, and my network's a lot different than it was when I started, those calls are easy to make. It's a human connection. And it's really about the person. And when you build that kind of local brand, which is what we're focused on now, it goes a long way. So, I think it's, to answer your question, it's the skill of being able to convert a lead, not just have the lead. And you can get leads anywhere. It's cheap to get leads. If you don't have the skills to convert them, it doesn't make a difference.
Ooh, man, that's so good. I love that. It was so funny. I was literally coaching our client success team today, which does a lot of our coaching for our marketing products. And we have a lot of real estate agents. And I had just listened, speaking of Tom Ferry, because you mentioned him on the show too, is he interviewed Seth Godin. And I was listening to that interview this morning on my way into work. And again, it comes back to this whole idea of kind of what you're driving home, which is, man, if you aren't building that, whatever you want to call it, the relationship, the brand with that database, I think Seth Godin used the word your local mayor type idea. But if you don't have that type of presence with your database, in the end, you're going to lose. And ultimately, it's because of what you're saying, because you're not going to beat out the Zillows of the world, the Realtor.coms, the Redfins with the money they can spend. But where you can beat them is in the relationship. You can beat them in that true, actual connection. So talk to us a little bit about the conversion, because I agree with you. There's tons of ways to get leads, whether it's Facebook, it's through mailings, geographic farming, all that stuff. How do you teach your agents to convert? And let's start with like an internet lead. Like an internet lead comes in. What are you guys trying to do to convert that lead into an actual client?
So the first thing is call them quickly. Speed to lead is real. I mean, ideally you get them like on the phone while their device is in their hand. Like that would be the ideal scenario. Like they hit the button and say, get more info, and the phone rings and they pick up. Like that's what every team should be going for, or every real estate agent. Easier said than done. But call them quickly, number one, and then use a script. This is where a lot of people make the mistake where they think, I don't want to use a script. I don't want to sound scripted. Well, guess what? The best people out there, the presidents in the past, they use scripts, and not to get political, but they have a script. They read off a teleprompter, right? Oscar-winning actors, they use scripts, right? The biggest CEOs out there, when they have their big keynote, like they used to at Apple with Steve Jobs, that is rehearsed and scripted. So people got to get that out of their head. So use the script. I mean, that's the first thing we do when we onboard people is we give them a script book, and we get them script certified, and they have to role play the script with our sales manager and use the right inflection, make sure they're downswinging at the end of sentences, the body language that's there. So using the script is really important. And also, making sure you're asking the right questions, not trying to talk someone into using you. And that's the mistake a lot of salespeople make. They talk too much and they think they're going to use some slick objection handler and get them to convert. It's no, find out what their motivation is. What are their goals? What's going to be important to them? I mean, things like LP Mama. I mean, that stuff works for an internet lead. Because then you know where they want to live, the price, the motivation. Do they have an agent? Do they need a mortgage? And do they want to set an appointment? And if you follow that stuff, I mean, this has all been tested. Like I'm not the smartest guy. I argue I would be one of the better implementers out there, because I'm just going to take what's out there and what works and then just use it at scale. And that's all we're trying to do.
How does your script work for your Sphere? You mentioned picking up the phone, keeping in touch with your Sphere. How does that script work?
So, this is really interesting because, so you guys are in Pennsylvania. Like, we couldn't do anything last year for 60 days. Like, we couldn't go show a house if we wanted to. Very aggressively locked down. And so our team's sitting there, and last year until this year was our best year ever. So how do we get there? And it was, hey, let's call our sphere and say, hey, how are you guys holding up right now? How's everything going? How's the work environment been for you? I mean, it's that typical like Ford script that you hear of, like family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. And you just ask people how they're doing, because guess what? They know I'm a real estate agent, right? If you're doing the right branding message, that's why all that stuff works. They know I'm a real estate agent. So if they want to talk real estate, they can. But if you just have a connection with somebody and ask them how, and especially like last year, I mean, I just think of that, like people were sitting in their homes and, phone calls and video and Zoom was so important. Just having that conversation with them and asking how people are doing and having some empathy, it goes a long way. And, so you call them with that, you call them on their birthdays, because I don't know about you guys, like I get a call from my mom on my birthday and that's about it. Like nobody else cares. But if the real estate agent calls, they're going to remember that stuff. So
that is pretty good. I love that. I love that.
And like, I mean, it's simple things. And obviously there's like a mailing and an email plan and everything else, but just have a conversation with someone like you're a human. And that's something a lot of real estate agents, they don't want to do. They think they have like commission breath all the time instead of actually just talking to somebody.
Yeah. And they feel like every call they make to their sphere, they have to ask for a referral, where you really don't actually have to do that every call. It's more important to just build the relationship. And I love the point that you made. It's like, if you've done your branding properly, right? So you have your drip proper, then they know you're in real estate, right? So if you actually truly seek to have a convo with them, right, and find out what's happening, you mentioned the Ford script. I love that one. I use that too. Is family, occupation, recreation, dreams. If you talk about their occupation, guess what they're going to naturally want to do? Ask you about, hey, what's going on with you? And exactly. Which gives you such a natural ability to transition a conversation to what you do. And then ultimately, if the opportunity presents itself, you can ask for a referral or see if there's repeat business opportunity and that type of idea. How many drips do you guys do a year? Do you have like a system for that yet where you've counted, hey, our core gets this many drips per year? We find that to be successful?
Yeah, so we send out 17 pieces of direct mail a year to our sphere.
Okay.
We'll give them 4 calls typically, and then they get a weekly email. And it's one of our YouTube shows we put out where it's all content driven. So it's just information about the market. So I got to film one after this. It's how's the market through the month of July? Because we just got the July statistics. People always ask that question. Last week we did a show about, hey, here's what happens if there's an issue at your walkthrough. And it's all like content based, did you know stuff, and then we never ask for the order in the show. It just goes out every week. People, and we'll get people that unsubscribe like any other mail list, but hey, we're just trying to help. And at least you're getting some good information, even if you're not using us. And when you have that approach, good things happen.
Love that. Can you talk a little bit about, because I talk to a lot of people who are starting to build teams now. Can you talk a little bit about how do you touched on the pain point of pulling yourself out of production, which is the pain point, right? Is like you were generating, now you got to focus on the systems, but how do you hold your team members accountable? How do you drive it? Especially because they kind of work for themselves, right? But they've joined your team. So there's this balance between accountability and inspiration and motivation. How do you do that with your team?
So being super transparent is really important. Not just share what's going on with the company, but when, we use a CRM, right? And we use Boomtown. Use the CRM to its fullest capacity, whatever one you're using. So you can actually like get reports where they'll say, hey, your response rate is X, meaning these are the leads you actually called back. Your property drip percentage is X. Your smart drip percentage with texts and emails is X. And we have standards that everyone's got to hit there, along with sales standards. And then they've got to track their numbers. We use a platform called Sisu, so we can see how many appointments they've been on, how many offers they're writing, whatever. And so we have this matrix that not a matrix, but like, here's the minimum standards. Here's what we're looking for. And here's how we're going to keep leads turned on. And it's part of, when they come on, it's made super clear. And then what we do every month is we show everyone's statistics, not just one person's. You don't just get to look at your own. You show everybody, so everyone knows exactly what's going on. And that's the best accountability, because if, no one, and there's nothing good or bad. It's like an email that goes out. Here's the numbers. We'll show conversion stats all the time in our team meetings, so everyone can kind of self-identify what the issues are. And we're big believers in an environment of integrity. That's one of our core values. So saying, hey, I'm going to do this, and then it doesn't happen, and you sit down and go over it, or our sales manager's there to help them, or someone's having trouble with something. There's no bad problems. It's, hey, we're all trying to get better here. And when you're transparent about the standards, it makes it a lot easier. Now, here's the thing that a lot of people do. They always want to bend on the standards. You can't bend. That's the one piece of advice I have for a team lead is you can't bend, because if you do that once, then they're going to look for it every time, rather than here's the situation, here's what we're going to do, and here's how I'm going to help you get there. But I can't just bend on the standard. And that's a mistake I've made in the past. And it's something that we stuck to, and it's really helped our team's performance. And they'll tell you that across the board.
Dude, I just want to give an applause on that. The reason why I just feel that so much is I went through the exact same thing. Still feel like I'm trudging through it sometimes, but the exact same thing of like, man, because we have a decently sized sales team here. And all of a sudden, a couple years back, like we just weren't performing. It was just like constant complaints on people having to put in phone time, all this stuff. And we realized it's because we weren't transparent and clear on our minimum standards. Like, hey, this is the minimum requirements to be on the team. You have to perform at this level. But then what the real goal that you just said is do not bend on your standards. And I had to literally, with my top producing team, we have something called the Sales Council. We're on a Zoom meeting one morning, all talking. And I literally told them, I said, guys, if I back down on what I truly believe in with this phone time and these metrics, wouldn't you actually believe in me less? You would literally be thinking to yourself, well, Luke just pulled this out of his ass. Basically, he never believed in the standards. But the fact that I'm actually going, no, I believe in this. This is why I'm implementing it. It's like never back down, because it just is a slippery slope and it cracks the whole foundation. I think that's so good that you are giving to people that, man, if you don't set that, and if you don't have a team and you're listening to this, what are your minimum standards that you're going to commit to and hold yourself accountable to? Because that is truly the difference maker there. So can you share with us, like, obviously you have a team, it's about 23 agents. When they are coming on board, right, you're obviously going through some sales classes, stuff like that. What made you get a sales manager? Because I'm interested in that, because not every team has a sales manager. What made you make that decision, and why have you seen that be super beneficial?
Well, so I'm just going to give you the straight data. That's how I operate. So we brought Josh on a little over a year ago, and originally we were planning on doing it sooner, and then the pandemic happened, and I said, we're just going to let's get through the next couple of months. We were in Pennsylvania. I don't need to say any more than that. So you guys know. So yep. The plan was to do it sooner, and the reason I was doing it was because, and I was still in production. So when you're still in production, right, I'm going to meet people in their living rooms. I'm selling literally 90 homes a year for a decade straight. So when that happens, like, you have that attention, then you've got the sales team, and I was doing the team members a disservice because I wasn't there for them. I was actually failing them as a leader by producing and doing that at the same time. And my coach and I, we made a plan to get out of production this year, 5 years ago. So this was the plan, and it's happened, which is really exciting. But when you want to grow your team, like, there's a span of command issue, right? And and in order to recruit people, like, someone needs to do that job, right? And then you have people running the sales team or helping with the driving sales in general, which is, what are your KPIs? What do the appointments look like? How many offers? All those sort of numbers that we track. So me trying to do all that and sell 90 homes a year just wasn't working. And that's part of the reason why, to your point, we made some mistakes and we bent on the standards, and that ended up hurting the team. And now when you have a sales manager whose only job is to do that, his only job is to get people into the performance categories, get people up to the minimum standards, and he gets measured on this stuff. That's how his comp is adjusted. It helped us become more of a company and less a real estate team, because there's a lot of real estate teams out there. I mean, it's like, we'll give this person this lead, we'll do this, we'll do that. And there's no system. And unfortunately, that's a lot of them. When I say a lot, I've seen a lot of them where that's the case, or people are wearing too many hats and they're trying to do too many different things, rather than be a real company and have someone that's leading the company, have someone that's driving sales, have someone that's like your integrator or your operations manager, which we have. So in order to if I was really going to get out of production, the only way to do it is to build a real company, because otherwise, you're kind of trapped sometimes. You want to keep bringing revenue in, and you're still doing you're still the best salesperson. Then you're pretty vulnerable. What happens if I go break my leg and I can't go out for a couple? That's not good for the company. So in order to really get to this next level, we had to make the commitment to build a real company, not just have me kind of trying to do everything at once while selling all these homes, because you're only going to be able to, and you're kind of in that danger zone as a team. I think the most dangerous place to be as a team is when you have 5 to 12 people, because you can only do so much with those people. But when you get to 20 or 30 or 40, then all of a sudden there's a lot of things you can leverage, and there's a lot more opportunities that come up. So you got to decide if you want to be like that Navy SEAL team where you're still in production, or you actually want to run it like a company. And I made the decision for the latter, partly because I've been doing this 20 years, partly because my dad's a realtor and I got kids at home and I want to get out of that, but also because I want to transfer the skills, and you can't transfer it while you're doing that volume of business. It's just not going to work.
Is that when you started doing content, like after you came out of production? Is that what you started focusing on, or were you doing that while producing?
We've been doing the first show we came out with. It was like a weekly consumer show. We've been doing that for 5 years now. I think we're at like episode like 240 or something like stupid. And that was more. We needed to have some. And if you watch like the first couple of shows, they're really bad. Like the audio's all messed up. Like
we know the feeling.
See, everyone's done it, right? Yep. So we got a nice studio like you guys in our other room here. So that was something we started doing, but then in order to scale it, you can't do it all. And, if you want to bring agents on and say, hey, I'm going to help you have a great career, and you're competing with them at the same time. I mean, are they really going to buy in? Are they really getting the best leads? And that was something we had made clear. Like, this is the year we're planning on getting, like we lay out the vision very transparently to everybody, because that way everyone knows where they're going. They can see their place where they want to be. And now it's, being able to say, hey, I sold these people a house and you've been working really hard and your numbers are great and you're showing up every day. That's a way to reward people for doing stuff on top of the normal opportunities they get. And the client's going to be better off. I mean, they're working with me and I got a million other things going on. That's not the right experience for the consumer. So, you got to look at what's best for the people involved, not just say, I want to make the most money or I want to sell all the houses.
What type of platforms are you leveraging to get your content out there? I know you mentioned your email newsletter. We talked a little bit about Instagram. What else are you using to get that out too? And you said the consumers and the agents, right? You're kind of educating both sets. So how are you reaching those audiences? What platforms are you using?
So right now we have 5 videos that drop a week. Monday's like a motivational one, and that'll go on Facebook, Instagram, and we put it on LinkedIn. Tuesday's our consumer facing show called Tom's Take. That goes on YouTube, email drop, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn as well. I might be missing some stuff here. I'm not the one who does it. So Wednesday is our agent facing show. So it's a lot of like, hey, here's a great script when the client has a bad phone number and you're trying to get them on the phone. Or
it's great stuff, everyone. You should check it out. I watch it on Instagram a lot of times when you guys are putting the agent hack stuff up there. It's great stuff.
Yeah, it's all stuff we're teaching here. Like, that's the thing. And so that same distribution, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. We have a private Facebook group we posted in as well for people that want to like mastermind and have questions. Then we started doing, we're like 4 shows in, we started doing like local sandwich reviews around the local marketplace here, like helping out restaurants and stuff like that. So we'll like actually score them, which is kind of cool. And we just started that a couple weeks ago. And then we have our radio show, which is also doubles as like a podcast, and we stream it on YouTube. And that started out as a show here in our video room. And then we're on 8:60 a.m. in Philadelphia. So we said, you know what, let's just make it all one show. We bring guests on. I think it's like 47 minutes. Yeah, well, because we were doing a podcast and it was kind of the same thing. So we said, let's make one really good show instead of 2 watered down ones. And that's been working out pretty well. Also, where like we talked about yesterday when we shot the show, the senators and the representatives at the House that want the FTC to investigate Zillow about their showing time acquisition. Big news in the real estate world. And then like, is the Delta variant going to affect the market? Like, these are questions people have. So we're just giving our opinion on them and what we know.
How do you deal with the haters? I saw some of your Instagram. Yeah, that was hilarious. I mean, your name, obviously, they love to play off your name, Tom Toole, but how do you deal with the haters? We get our own haters. So
you just said you listen to Seth Godin, right? That podcast with Tom. And he said something that if people aren't like making fun of you behind your back or talking about you, then you're probably not doing something right. Yep. So, I mean, haters are going to hate, man. I mean, it's like, I actually embrace that because it tells me I'm making enough of a difference in the market that these people don't know me, right? They don't know what I'm about. That's fine. But I'm getting their attention. And, I'm a big Peloton rider, and I was on a ride, and I actually did a video about this where it's like, this ride is dedicated to all my haters. You need them. And it ends up like, motivate you a little bit. And, proving people wrong is fun to do. You guys probably feel the same way. You're like, you get these haters or whatever else, and it happens. I mean, that stuff's going to be out there. So, if people you're not going to appeal to everybody. like attracts like. You got your own tribe. And I feel the same way about our team. I mean, if they don't like what we're doing, they're not going to join. But if they do, it's going to be a great place for them to make money, have a great career, and have a great life.
Yeah, so well said. And at least you're getting an emotional reaction. You know, it's like you don't want to put out content. You either want people to love you or hate you. You don't want lukewarmness. It just is, it doesn't do you any good to have a bunch of lukewarm people. I gotta ask you before we go somewhere else is your view on follow-up, because you put out a hilarious clip on Instagram of, and people got to go watch it. I'm not going to explain it. Go watch it. But what's your view on follow-up? Specifically, like, what do you tell your agents? Like, how much should you follow up with somebody?
So here's what we know. These are NAR stats. The average agent follows up 2.7 times. So not even 3. And every sales book you read, 6+ attempts are where the conversion happens. I mean, this is any kind of sale. So this isn't even real estate specific. So the whole point is that you've got to follow up. I mean, and there's a lot of like information out there that if you hit a lead X amount of times, I think it's like 10 calls and 6 texts in 14 days, you're going to convert way better than like 1 call, 1 text, 1 email. And the fact is, people are really busy. I mean, like, just think about like how many times like you make an inquiry about something, whether it's like a car or something else, and like, or you have someone trying to meet with you, and and you're the client. Like, let me be very clear. Like, not when you're the client. You might miss them the first couple times. It's not anything else than like, life is busy right now. I might be picking up my kids. I might be in a meeting. So you got to kind of understand that. And when people follow up, it shows that you want their business. And when you do that, I mean, and people can see they want their business, and that goes a long way, especially for the people that are serious about transacting. So, I mean, that's all the money's in the follow-up. I mean, how many times do you guys, you have a sales team. How many times do you convert on the first call?
Oh man, our stats are 9 to 13 calls. It takes us 9 to 13 calls to get.
And that's
people.
why that 10-6 number I was talking about, same thing. I mean, we're talking about the same stuff, but it's like never on the first call. It never happens. Yep. So that's all you need to know. And that's where I just try to be super coachable.
Yeah, no, I loved it. I loved that clip. Go check it out on Instagram. I thought it was great. And it's so true. I agree with it 100%. And I'll give you a real life, like me personally as a consumer. So I'm in the process of doing some refinance stuff. And so I have this mortgage guy that I know that I'm working with, but I have some other companies. My name got on a list. So I have some other companies reaching out. Well, one person I picked up, and I was on my way home, and they gave me their short little pitch, as you would call it. And I was like, oh, wow, maybe I can get a better rate than I was thinking. And maybe I'm not doing the best thing. Well, they've called me back. I didn't have time right there because I was just getting home and I hadn't seen my daughter. I was like, hey, man, I got to walk into the house, but I am interested. He's called me back like 3 times. And every time I see the phone number, I'm in the middle of something. I'm like, I do want to talk to this person.
Yeah, but I need to put aside some time.
Yeah, but I need to put aside some time. Now, if he's the salesperson on the other end, might be thinking, not interested. But the consumer, me, is like, just not a convenient time. But I do want to talk to that person. And it does put it back on my radar. So just let that be a lesson to you that you might be calling people that aren't answering, but they do want to talk to you. They just don't have time right now. So you got to stay consistent in it.
I have a woman that I get like a custom suit jacket and everything because I'm short and weird shaped and I like the suit to fit the right way. So, but like she'll like, and I'm already her client, by the way, and like she'll light me up to get a meeting, and I'm like, yo, it's not you, it's me. Just like I'm all in for it, and she follows up relentlessly, and that's why she does well. I mean, it's the same thing.
It's every single industry because we sell. I mean, we were majority real estate and we still are. That's the biggest client base for us. But we now are in 140 different industries. In every industry, it's the same. It's like you got to follow up. You can't close on the first call usually. And if you do, a lot of times it's lucky and it might not be the best client. Sometimes you got to work that deal. So, okay, I got to ask you, man. We ask everybody who comes on the show. You mentioned Peloton. I know, man, you're religious, it seems like, on that Peloton and because I see your posts all the time. But are there any routines that you implement in your life that you've looked back over doing this for so long that you go, man, Josh and I are big into self-development, so we love asking this question. It's like, these routines have really helped me. These self-development hacks that I've implemented in my life I've really seen pay dividends for me.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a component of it. So a couple of years ago, me and a couple other guys I met through like coaching in real estate, we jumped on like a 5 a.m. call, like an accountability, like you got to get up early, get your day started. You know, that's like a whole thing. You've probably heard this before. So we started this call and now it's got like 2,000 people on there, which is pretty wild. We had Gary Vaynerchuk on a couple of weeks ago, which took us like 3 years to get him. Another example of follow-up, by the way. But so we get on, and if you want to check it out, it's 5amcall.com, but we get on, it's like a daily motivational call, 6 days a week. But then it's really about what happens after that. So you get up, you get on the call, then I'll do like a Darren Hardy jam session so I can prep my day, like make sure all the stuff I need to know. Like I have a game plan for when I walk into the office, any sort of things that need to get worked on the business. Like if we're redoing our onboarding manual or I'm working on some drips or, no one's bothering me. My kids aren't up. It's kind of a quiet time where I can get some stuff done. I do that until about 6. And then typically around 6, I'll work out for about half hour, 45 minutes, maybe an hour, depending on what's going on. And that's, I do all that at home because like I used to go to a gym and it's like, that takes like 25 minutes extra. And then that was before the pandemic. Now it's like, good luck even going to a gym. So it just, it's about efficiency because like, and then after that, I'll like help get my kids ready for school, see them off, drive to work. I'll make some calls in the car when I have like that dead drive time. But it's a pretty disciplined morning routine. So when I get in here, I get done the stuff I need to get done. Especially when I was heavy into production, I'd be on the phones every morning until from 9 to 11. And that was part of my routine because I knew I wasn't going to be able to get it done. Like once the afternoon hit, because people are calling you, you got appointments, the afternoon lead gen just never happens. The morning's when you get stuff done. So that was really a part of our routine. Now I'm doing some things differently because we're in a different spot in our business, but the same routine in the morning. And what that's really helped me with is one, get my health straight. I mean, that's been really, you get older, you guys look like we're all around the same age here. I mean, things change. You mentioned you have a daughter, Luke, like you got to be around a little longer. I got 3 kids. So that's a component. Also just being able to like use my like body's like the circadian rhythm where I'm a lot more productive in the mornings than I am like when I get to the office where I can work on projects, jam them out, get like trainings prepped, like all that stuff you don't have time to do when you're in the office. That's been really helpful. And then just, it's just that daily discipline of just kind of doing the same thing and being ready to go. And it's helped tremendously. I find I'm more productive. I got more energy because I'm in better shape, even though you may not think so. And I'm also going to bed earlier, which like that helps a lot because you got to have a good nighttime routine and have a good morning routine. Like staying up late doesn't help a lot of people. I don't know any high producers that are up to like, or high achievers that are up to like 1 a.m. doing God knows what. I mean, that's just doesn't fly. So that's been pretty helpful for sure.
If you study like sleep, like it's crazy, like some of this stuff. Now I'm no expert in it at all, but just study the importance of sleep. And you're just like, holy crap, sleep is more important than working out. Like it is like insanely important for not only your recovery from a mental state, but your recovery. Yeah. Let's all go nap right now instead of listen to this podcast.
Tom, last question for you. I'd love to know, knowing what you know now in your career and in real estate and in life, what would you go back and tell younger Tom? What would you go back and tell maybe that 19-year-old kid who just before he got his license?
One, don't be a jackass. But besides that, I think, I love, listen to this if you're listening to this podcast, there's so much content out there that you can learn. And self-education to me is like, it's great to go to college and stuff, but self-education is where it's at. I mean, you can get so dialed into things that you're interested in, whether it's running a business or whether it's selling real estate or having a marketing company like you guys do. I mean, all those things. And if you go seek out experts in the field and just kind of listen to what they're doing, read a book, listen to a podcast, listen to an interview, if you can pull one thing, just like one little piece from 45 minutes or a couple hours reading a book, that's the kind of stuff that can really like change the way you run your business. I mean, that happened to me I was at like a retreat like 3 years ago. And I remember talking to the president and the CEO of the company, and they said something about transitioning into a new role. And here's what they did. And I used it right here and it worked out beautifully. And it was like, you don't even know when it's going to come in handy, but like that stuff sticks. So just trying to digest as much content as you can and look for the downtimes to do it. Like drive time, like instead of listening to Howard Stern, maybe put on a podcast. And I'm all for the fun stuff. I don't live this life of like a Spartan soldier where I'm not doing anything.
You're not David Goggins.
I'm not David Goggins. That's for sure. And I'm not, but when you're on, be on, right? Like, and that's where your schedule really helps. But if you got like, you're driving to an appointment and you're a realtor, put on a podcast or like get that time back because, you can either choose time or choose money. And if you choose time, money's going to come to you. If you choose money, that's all you're going to get. So try to figure out how to use your time better and really get into that self-education because that's going to help you tremendously.
Love that advice. Yeah. Even brushing your teeth in the morning. Like, what are you doing while you're brushing teeth? Listen to a podcast. Yeah. Kind of fill your morning with that type of routine. All right, Tom, thanks so much for coming on to the podcast. Before we do close out, let people know how they can connect with you, follow you on social media, all that good stuff.
Sure. So the best places to connect with me are on Instagram. It's at Tom Toole 3RD. So Tom Toole 3rd. Or check us out on YouTube. All our content goes there as well. Those places are great. Give me a follow. You want to connect, shoot me a DM. I respond to everybody. I make sure to do that because I think that's what social media is all about. And, or you can just Google me if you want to do that. But those are the two best places to follow for sure.
Love it. We're going to include links to those in the show notes of this episode. Thanks again, Tom, for coming on. Thank you all so much for listening. You can get those links and some behind the scenes show notes over at staypaidpodcast.com. You can also get the video for all of our episodes there. If you enjoyed this podcast, want to show your support, there's two ways we ask. One is to head on over to Apple Podcasts, leaves a 5-star review along with a comment to let us know what you thought of this episode. And the best way to help out the show and show support is to share this with a friend, share it on your social media. If you want to get hold of me or Luke, you can email us at podcast@ReminderMedia.com. And of course, you can follow us on Instagram and social media as well. We are at Stay Paid Podcast. For this episode of Stay Paid, I'm Joshua Stike.
Guys, and I'm Luke Acree. I would highly, highly encourage you, action item, go follow Tom on Instagram. It is great stuff. I'm following him and I get a ton of content and a ton of ideas that I even use with our team here to help coach them. So go follow that. That's an action item for you. But one of the action items that I think is absolutely critical for you and your business is you need to define what your minimum requirements are. And so few people are intentional about that. And you listen to Tom, I mean, you're listening to a real practitioner, a real producer for many, many, many years. It's not just a blip on the radar. It's consistent production. And as he's transitioned to build a larger team, it's all about what are those minimum requirements that and standards really that you're going to hold yourself accountable to, and have you done that? And if you haven't done that, you got to start there. That's what you got to put on paper and you got to commit to. Remember, the difference between top producers and mediocre producers in every single industry is top producers take action. Take action on that today.